Travel with us through beautiful Southern Oregon as we visit the gems of the Rogue Valley. These are some of the most popular and hidden gems in the region. We'll take you and explore incredible venues, amazing hotspots, unique museums, and places you can bring the whole family. So get ready for your hosts, Cassandra Wass and David Nienow.
Hello, and welcome to Gems of the Rogue Valley. I'm your host, David Nienow.
And I'm your host, Cassandra Wass.
And today we're featuring a nice hidden gem in the valley, one that helps you to dive into doing your family history. It's a gem that I've actually used myself in the past.
Yes, you have. And I have to say, this was such a fun gem to work on. Yeah. So I just want to introduce it. It is, we have the Jackson County Genealogy Library and the Rogue Valley Genealogical Society.
And our host, our guest from the society is Ann Billeter, and we welcome you to the show.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming. And thanks for bringing this beautiful quilt behind us, which we're going to talk about. Yeah, I'm so excited. So, let's just start at the beginning. What is genealogy?
Genealogy is studying your own family history, finding out about your ancestors.
Okay.
And that can mean looking into the history. It can mean finding out that you had a Civil War ancestor and what that person went through and how it changed the lives of the entire family. Or you can have a brick wall and get completely stuck and not even know who one of your great-grandfathers was.
Well, I was thinking, I was just thinking that. I was like, well, how far do people typically go back? Or can people go all the way back to say the beginning? Yeah. How does that work?
That works completely, it depends on the individual.
Okay.
Some people truly do get stuck very close to themselves, only can go back a few generations, or they may go back a lot of generations in one line, but be stuck on another line. Others can go way, way, way back. I know people have gotten back into the Middle Ages.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
It depends on what your goal is when you're doing genealogy. Some people are more interested in their heritage in the United States, even back to the colonial period. Others really want to know about where they came from before they reached the United States.
Like the old country.
The old country, whichever one it may be or whichever ones it may be.
Wow. Wow, that's just incredible. I mean, I'm sure you probably get stopped because there's records, right? You only have so many records and you can just only go back so far.
They depend entirely on who you wind up going back to. So if you're lucky enough to go back to royalty, the records are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would
typical.
hope, right?
Yeah, it's typical, yeah.
Go back to royalty.
But as a friend of mine once said, we were just dirt farmers in Iowa, then...
And that's it.
Doesn't mean you can't go back further than that.
Right,
But
right.
it's a little different doing the research. It's different records.
And this has become very popular. I mean, there's all these online things. In fact, we'll talk about that with the library, but the hot topic you were saying is to get a DNA test.
That's right.
So how does that work?
DNA is being used as one of the tools of genealogy. Some people think that if they can just have a DNA test, then they're going to know who their ancestors are. Doesn't work that way.
Okay.
It's just one aspect of genealogy. But the way it works is you choose which company, they send you the test kit, you spit into a little test tube and mail it back to them, and then they send you the results, usually over the internet. And then you discover it's a lot more complicated than you thought it was.
Wow.
One of the first things that you learn is that just because you have your DNA test doesn't mean that you know everything about your ancestors, because you only get half of your mother's, approximately half of your mother's DNA.
Really?
What about that other half?
Right.
You get half of your father's DNA, more or less. What about the other half that he didn't pass down to you?
Right.
So if you, as so many have, believe that you have Native American ancestry, because so many families have that tradition,
Yeah.
and you test and it comes back with your ethnicity with 0 Native American, that doesn't mean you don't have Native American heritage. It means you didn't get the gene.
Ah.
Okay.
Right,
Your
'cause it's
sibling
in the
may.
DNA.
So if your full
Oh.
sibling tests and has Native American, that is proof that you also have Native American ancestry, but
Wow.
not the DNA.
That's so interesting. I mean, you
Yeah,
had it done, right?
Yeah, and we've actually encountered that same issue about Native American ancestry on my mother's side. Because when I had that test done last year, I got like a 0 result on that. But we have a strong family legend on my mother's side of one of my great-great-grandfathers marrying an Indian princess, right, kind of thing. So, right?
Well, princesses
Yeah,
are good.
so, you know, but when I got the results back, it showed that I was like 55% Great Britain, 33% Eastern European, which I know relates to Germany and Poland area
Right.
because of my research I've done,
Wow.
and 10% Irish. And there was like 2% that was like Iberian Peninsula and Asian, you know, but it was like nothing super specific, right? So,
That's right.
you know.
But if you
Yeah.
have siblings and they test, they might show the Native American ancestry or cousins.
Right.
And so if you do that, and some families are really getting into it and actually paying for other family members to have their test kits
Wow.
so that they can prove it or disprove it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's super neat.
Yeah, it really is an interesting process.
Wow.
And the other thing I found interesting, because I went through the Ancestry DNA kit service, and so the results get loaded into the Ancestry.com database, and they indicated that I had like around 22,000 relatives on Ancestry.com.
That's so cool.
That's a lot of relations,
That's
you know.
a lot of
Love
And
it.
that would take a while to make through and contact everyone, you know.
Yeah,
So.
for sure, for sure. Wow, that's neat. Oh my gosh. Well, should we get on to our next topics here?
So, you know, you have, in regards to the library that you have here locally, because I've been a member in the past, and I'll say that back when I was a member, you were at a different location. You were downtown on Central, and it was kind of a very narrow kind of a office space. And your new space that you're in is so much more bigger, much brighter lighting. It's a beautiful, beautiful library.
Thank you.
So how big is the library in terms of your resources?
We have 19,000 cataloged items, and you can look at those on our online catalog, which is on our website. Just like any public library catalog, it's there. So you can see in advance what materials we have on the state or the county that you're interested in, or the country. We're stronger on the United States, but we do have some material, especially on the European countries. And that's mostly books, but some microfilms, some CDs, and a lot of genealogical magazines put out by various societies, some of which have unique material that is not available anywhere else, including the internet.
Yeah, and
Oh, that's nice.
do you have like online computer access through the library for people to?
Yes, we do. We have subscriptions to 6 genealogical websites right now, including, of course, the famous one, Ancestry.com. But we also have Find My Past, which focuses on the United Kingdom, anywhere in the world. So Australia and New Zealand resources, Canadian resources are available on that one. We have My Heritage, which focuses on European records and is expanding beyond Europe and does some translation, which is very helpful to people who, like us, who often have no other language but the one we grew up with.
Right.
And we have one called History Geo, which focuses on maps and has maps of the first landowner in the United States who purchased or got land from homesteading it or from a donation land claim from the federal government. And they can zero in right on that piece of land wherever it is right now they've done 21 of the states.
Oh, wow.
Including Oregon.
That is so awesome. Wow. So that's a good piece of material that you can get a hold of.
That's right.
Nice.
And I still haven't told you about all of them. One of the others is Fold 3, which focuses on United States military records. And that's from the colonial period forward. And that includes some of our more recent wars. There's a lot of information about World War II, and there's a lot more information than people think there is about World War II because the records, some of the records did burn.
Right.
But there are other resources available to help with your research. We've had a class on that recently.
Because I know that in doing my research in the past, that there's limitations on access to like federal and state records because there's like laws that say, you know, records won't be released until for a certain amount of time.
That's right.
So like military records go back to like World War II, but they're like records for like the Korean War, Vietnam, those aren't like really currently available yet.
Some information is about those wars. I haven't delved into that, so I don't know the details about what is or isn't there, but if you're trying to find out, I would certainly look into it. See.
And the same thing happens with like census records.
Definitely.
Because what's the latest, most recent set of census records that are currently
1940.
Right.
1940. And they wait 72 years after the census to release it, and that's based on the average longevity at the time that law was passed.
Oh, geez.
So right now we're waiting until I think it's 2022 for the 1950 records to be released. And that's one of the things that genealogists always wait for with bated breath.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's always some mystery that can only be solved by getting to that next census.
And because census records, I know, as they've progressed through the decades, there's always more information being added, and that becomes available when that information is released.
Yes.
So when the 1950 census becomes available, there'll be more data in that set than what would be in the 1940 set.
They ask different questions. Each 10 years, the Census Bureau sits down and figures out, all right, what questions do we need answered? And then there are often very many interest groups that say, well, we really want you to ask this or that.
Right.
So what does happen is questions get dropped sometimes that genealogists wish they wouldn't drop.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, when you've been doing genealogy for quite a while and really spending time with the censuses, you start to get to know which one to go to try to ferret out that type of information.
Right.
Like how many years were you married is a question that some of the censuses ask. One of them asks, what was your age at your first marriage?
Oh,
It's a little more specific.
Yeah.
some good.
Yeah. So yes, the censuses are a great treasure. They became much more useful in 1850. That's the first census that asked for the names of each person in the household. Previous to that, every 10 years, they were only asking a few basic questions. What's the name of the head of the household? And then tally marks for age groups and gender groups. So it's much harder to do your research pushing it back before 1850 for that reason. And before the first census in 1790, you have to go to other records.
Right, yeah, and in that case, you're getting into like church records.
Yes.
And
cemetery records, if you're lucky enough that they have them.
yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in coming to the library, for someone comes in for the first time to get started, what assistance does the library provide to get someone initiated in the process?
Sure. First thing we do is offer a tour of the library itself so that people understand how it's organized, which is basically using the Dewey Decimal System.
Right.
Luckily, everybody's pretty familiar with that. And then we do provide just assistance from the librarians. We have we're an all-volunteer organization. We have 99 active volunteers. Not all of them are librarians, about 30 of them are librarians, to staff the library 41 hours a week.
Okay.
So that's one of the first things that we tell people who are considering membership is that we are open 41 hours a week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. and Tuesdays until 9 p.m.
Oh, okay.
We have a lunchroom. You can bring your lunch and put it in the refrigerator and stay till 9 on Tuesdays.
Oh.
You can move in.
That's
Yeah. Well,
quite.
when you get the bug, yeah, you spend a lot of time.
That's right.
That's right.
Someone told
Yeah.
me just the other day that they started just researching this little question and looked up 4 hours later.
Yeah.
Thought no time had gone by.
Yeah. Now I understand there's an OLLI class.
Ollie.
OLLI class.
Oh, they're awesome.
Osher,
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. It's affiliated with Southern Oregon University, and they teach classes at the Higher Education Center in Medford
Okay.
and on campus at SOU, and a few other selected sites, including ScienceWorks and the Genealogy Library. So we teach a course each fall. It's 4 weeks long, just every Friday for 4 weeks, and it's the basic introduction to genealogy.
All right.
That's right.
And it's
going on
packed.
right now. It is packed.
It's packed. I think you even have a waiting list, right?
We have a waiting list.
Yeah,
we
all the
have.
classes are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I didn't even come across the term until just the other night. So yeah, that sounds really cool. That
It is.
you've got that class out there.
That's right. And we do also offer other classes throughout the year. For members, it's usually $10 a class and $20 for non-members, because we are a membership organization.
Right.
We just charge $30 a year to be a member. And if you don't want to be a member, you want to just try it out, $5 to use the library for the day.
Okay. I believe we have at this point, I believe we have a video on the genealogy library that
Yeah,
we
we
can
have
see.
a clip, and so if we could pull that clip up, that would be fantastic, guys. There it is. Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That just looks so great.
Thank you.
We're going to have to go there. Well, I have to go there, but
Yeah.
you've been.
Yeah, I've been. It's
Oh, but
a
he needs to
wonderful-
come back.
He needs to come back.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, well, I did really well on it for quite a while, a few years ago, until I had a computer crash and all my hard drive data lost. I got all my binders of printed information, but I got like multiple binders of data, that hundreds of pages of data that
Yes.
that just like crushed my mind mentally about the prospect of trying to put it all back in the computer.
bet.
So that kind of stopped it for a while.
Right.
But
And nowadays, of course, people try to put things in the cloud.
yeah.
And some people pay to have the Ancestry.com membership or use one of the other websites that has lower costs to put your family tree right on site, so that it is accessible and won't get lost if your computer crashes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Genealogy Society. I got it right. Okay,
That's
good.
close enough. Close enough.
Oh, no, it's the Genealogical
Genealogical
Society, right? And they just turned 50.
That's right. In 2016, we had our 50th anniversary. This is our anniversary quilt.
We love it.
It includes symbols of Jackson County histories, the gold panning, the railroad, which you may hear a little bit about in a little while,
Okay.
and covered wagon, and this, I've lost the word, smudge pots.
Well, and I like you said on, I don't think they can see it on camera, but we've got these boxes down here, and it's a real interesting story of how the society got started. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And it was a small group of people who were interested in genealogy 51 years ago now. And so they all put their books together, their genealogy books. The librarian kept them in a box under her bed, and it was her responsibility to bring them to the monthly meetings. As soon as they finished the business meeting part, they took the books out and they all worked on their research. And it didn't take long for the books to be too many for the librarian to be carrying back and forth. So that's
Right.
when they got their first site. We've moved 5 times now.
Well, and the news site is amazing. And I was reading on the website that you guys have all different types of programs that
We
you
do.
offer. So let's talk about some of the programs you offer.
Sure.
Okay.
We have 2 public programs each month, except December, July, and August.
Okay.
And they're both free to the public.
Okay.
We don't charge for them. And usually the third Tuesday of the month program relates in some way to Southern Oregon history or to some topic that fits in one way or another with genealogy. The fourth Tuesday of the month is our quilts and genealogy talk. It's not about how to make quilts, it's about connecting quilts to your genealogy or to the genealogy of a specific family. We have a very small collection of quilts that were given to us by the Jacksonville Museum quilters.
Wow. Okay.
With the understanding that we would display one at a time and make them available for them to take to other locations for display. And so we have a number of quilts, such as the furry family quilt that was a double wedding ring quilt. And I did a program recently that was an hour long about the furry family and their history and how they came to Jackson County and when and who and what part they played in the development of Jackson County.
Now, that family, what's the family spelling on that?
Furry.
Because I have Fury family on my father's line that goes back to Ireland.
Well,
Yeah.
might be. There might be a connection. They settled in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
neat.
That's right.
And can just, if someone's got like a historical presentation to do, can they contact you
Absolutely.
and do a presentation?
We have, as I said, we have a program schedule, but and we are scheduled out a ways, but we like to have other than our usual presenters.
Right.
So we're always happy to hear from anyone who's volunteering. Also to teach classes. We have classes on all aspects of genealogy, and we would love to have more people with experience.
More people, yes. All right. And how about you've got the special interest groups?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
They meet monthly, and we have a German interest group that just celebrated Oktoberfest.
Super.
We have an Irish interest group, and one guess as to what they celebrate.
Right.
St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
And we have 3 different DNA interest groups, one for beginners, one for advanced, and one called genetic genealogy that's just gotten started. And I believe I've left one out. Oh yes, Family Tree Makers.
Wow.
So Family Tree Maker is a software package that many people choose to purchase in order to put their family tree on it, to enter it. And there are ways to try to share that information with others who have similar family trees. And so the people who have purchased that have found that it's intricate, it has lots of capabilities if you want to learn about them, and sometimes it's easier to learn by talking to another person with the same software.
Right.
So they meet monthly. They started out as 2 separate interest groups, one for PCs and one for Macs, and now they've combined.
That's terrific. Well, and so let's just talk about this too. So the society actually has a membership
Yes.
that you can purchase, and it's actually relatively inexpensive.
It is $30.
$30. And tell our viewers what you get with that membership, because I actually think it's incredible. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You get free access to the library and all of those 6 subscription websites, all 19,000 cataloged items, 41 hours a week.
Right.
You get the help of a mentor when you're new
Right.
to the society for 3 hours of free help.
Okay.
You get unofficial help anytime you come in. If you are stuck on something, you can just ask the librarians, and amazingly often the person sitting next to you at another computer, we have 16 computers
Oh, wow, that's
for
great.
patrons to use,
Oh, yeah.
may know the answer more quickly even than one of the
And
librarians.
you have access to those programs, you said,
Yes,
right?
they are on all of the computers.
So you don't actually have, you don't have to spend money on all these programs. You can just spend the $30, do the membership, and
Right.
go and actually get all this help
Yes,
at the library,
that's correct. And then, of course, lower rates for the classes.
which is great.
That's right. And
Yeah.
camaraderie. It's a group of people with a common interest
Yeah,
and many, many stories.
love that. Okay, well, talk about stories.
About stories.
I put together a little clip of all of the beautiful quilts. You sent me pictures. So can we pull up that clip and we'll take a look at some of the quilts.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was
There's some beautiful
awesome.
quilts there.
Yeah, what did you say there was a Hawaiian quilt in there?
We had a Hawaiian program, a program about Hawaiian quilts, and several
Oh.
people brought the Hawaiian quilts that they owned. And the person who did the presentation was fantastic. She knew so much about the different way that Hawaiian quilts are designed and sewn, and was able to tell us about some of the quilts other people brought, things that they didn't even know.
That's so
Yeah,
neat.
that's cool.
That's so neat.
So, in addition to the memberships that you offer in support of the library and the society, what other things can people do to support what you do?
I would say there are really three major legs of support. One is our volunteers, and we have a membership of 805 members, and of those, 99 are active volunteers, which is a really robust group of volunteers. But we also have many volunteer opportunities, some of which are waiting for the right person to come along.
Right.
We have the membership fee. We have donations. We have an annual fund drive to help with our operating expenses. Those are the three major ways. We also do charge for research. People can pay us $15 an hour to do research for them. Often that is people who don't live here but discover that they have Jackson County ancestors, because one of the strengths of our library and our website is the indexes to Jackson County records and information.
And that rate at $15 an hour, that's such a reasonable rate compared to where else you would go to have that same level of research done.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's really incredible.
And again, it's being done by volunteers, giving their time.
Well, speaking of time, yeah, this has just been so incredible. I just want to say this is really just neat, and I encourage our viewers out there, please, please, please check out the genealogy library. So, it's unfortunately this is all the time we have. Gems of the Rogue Valley, and we want to thank you at home for joining us, and thank the library and the society for being here.
Yes. Yeah, so we want to give a special thanks to our guest, Ann Billeter, for coming in and talking about the genealogy services that the library and society offer. And we want to thank our crew for everything that they've done to help bring our show together. And if you have a special gem that you think needs to be featured on our show, you can write us at gems@glamourdave.com. And so I'm your host, David Nienow.
And I'm your host, Cassandra Wass.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.